All right. Well, I'm a little late getting this out. Been sick this week, fighting a cold. Fortunately, it's just a cold and not COVID. Overall, I feel better today. Was really tired this morning. Slept a lot. Laid on the couch, played PlayStation. That helped quite a bit. Kind of feeling a little better now, later in the afternoon here. Run the Jewels, 1 and 2. Fantastic. Fantastic. I've got a couple notes here. I don't really know how much I have to honestly say, other than really enjoyed both these albums. I really enjoyed. To me, there's a noticeable jump from 1 to 2, and that's cool. That makes me want to listen to 3 very much, and then 4 as well. Although apparently 3 is a slightly longer album, so I won't be able to combine those two on a Friday, unfortunately, most likely. Maybe I can work it out to where it'll be hard to schedule, but maybe I can work it out to where I do 3 on a Friday and then number 4 on the Saturday after that. That'd be kind of cool, because I have heard, I guess there's rumors if they're back in the studio now for 5, and that would be fucking cool to jump onto as it drops. Honestly, I'm liking being involved with releases as they drop. I'm really enjoying that more than I thought I would, which is surprising, I guess. I don't know why it's surprising. It's interesting, but I'm really liking that. Regarding the albums, let's see what do I got. I'm still a little tired here. Okay. So I watched some interviews and stuff, and there was one. It was LP. And he was talking to Dead End Hip Hop guys, which is a channel. I haven't watched their channel, but I want to. Now, I guess it's a couple guys that basically just sit around and talk about music, which is great. And it was really cool to see Mike and LP both praise them, the channel, those guys, and what they're doing about sitting around and talking about music. I thought that was really cool. And in listening to the interviews from LP, Killer Mike, and what those two guys have said about music and what they're trying to do, you can tell they care about music and what they make, the effort that they put into it, which I always get so excited about that. It reminded me of Josh Homme. I can never remember how to say his last name. He's the lead guitar and vocals off of Queens of the Stone Age. And he told a story on some podcast or interview or something about how he was, when they were touring with other bands, and the bands would talk about how they hated playing their songs and they got so sick and tired of playing the same songs. And he was just like, what are you talking about? You're supposed to make music that you love. You're supposed to make the music that you want to play, that you want. You basically make a band so that you can make the songs you want to hear because nobody else is making them, and I totally agree with that. So it's just cool to see those two so intense in their love for music and what they're trying to do. There was one interview with Killer Mike. They're out in the street somewhere outside at night. I think it was with Dead End Hip Hop again. I think both the interviews were with them. God, I'm almost like out of breath. And it was really cool to see the intensity and the passion that he had about improving. When he was talking about Run the Jewels 1, his goal was to do better than what he did with rap music, which is an album I want to hear now. And then with 2, they want to improve on 1. And Killer Mike was really just pushing this idea of constantly get better, constantly look at the artists who he considers to be above him, to overtake them, become better than them. And, that competitive spirit that runs in the veins of hip hop. Listening to him talk about that was really neat, because it just helped me understand that more. That's something that you guys know I've struggled with, this idea of the competition aspect, because I've never really felt that it's that necessary. But seeing it drive him was very cool, and it helped me understand that aspect more. There was something that LP said in one of the interviews that was really interesting to me, was him and Killer Mike worked in the room together, making the music together, doing the lyrics together, like working together. And I've always wondered how common or uncommon that is, because I know, in this day and age, somebody can make some beats and then they send them over to the other guy, and the other guy does the verses. I remember watching I think it was the Genius documentary, where some guy had showed up to do a feature on Kanye's album, but he didn't have a verse yet. And he was kind of making it there in the studio, but it was kind of shit. And it was just, that part was strange to me. And I don't know how common this is with features or anything like that, but I feel like with verses, you would come in and you would work with the artist. Like, it felt like there should be more collaboration and more integration of ideas, mixing of ideas, rather than just, hey, I want you to be a feature. And that's it. There's no direction. There's no concepts or themes being exchanged, really. I don't know. I mean, I'm very much on the outside view on that, you know? And so it just makes me wonder, because sometimes these verses that features have, they're really good, but sometimes they're like almost out of place. I don't know. Anyway, to hear LP talk about how him and Killer Mike worked together, working with beats, working with lyrics, constantly tweaking stuff, constantly like in the same room together, finishing each other's sentences almost, you know, that kind of thing. It was neat to hear that, and it makes me think, okay, is that somewhat uncommon? Because he, you know, emphasized that was a thing. But to me, you can hear it. You can really hear it in these albums. There's this tight cohesiveness that exists in both of these albums. And it's been a fun experience for me because I keep thinking, God, these two albums are really, really good. And the reason why they're so good is because the beats are so tight, and they're so, there's almost like this rock element to them. There's slightly organic feel and a little bit more emphasis on some drum beats and some of these heavier tones. I don't know. I can't really describe it. I can't really, well, not necessarily that. I can't really pinpoint why I feel like there's a little bit more rock inspired elements than with other albums. Maybe it's just the intensity of the beats and the consistency. Like, they're consistently just pounding away, which is great. Lost my train of thought. Shit. Oh, so I think, okay, yeah, so it's the beats. The beats are the reason why these albums are so good. And then I listened to Killer Mike. I'm like, no. The reason why these albums are so good is because Killer Mike just goes on these awesome tears. Awesome tears. Great flow. Packing a punch. Great, I mean, just bar after bar after bar. Great vocal presence. Very strong in his sound and his enunciation. Just fucking precise. Really good. Well, like, I forget what track it is, but he's talking about purposeful, masterful, you know, all that shit. It's just really good. And then I think, well, yeah, but LP's doing a pretty good job too. So you've got all three aspects they're just firing away. You know, all of the cylinders are firing. And then I go, oh, well, that's why they're so good. But then for whatever reason, my brain keeps going through this loop of, oh, it keeps trying to isolate one reason why these albums are so good. And I don't know why. But I just constantly go, oh, no, it's because of the beats. Oh, no, because it's Killer Mike. Oh, no, it's LP. Oh, well, it's LP because of the beat. And just over and over and over again. Anyway, there's that. Let's see. Well, I guess I could nail some tracks, some of my favorite tracks. So from the first one, you know, Do Dope, Fuck Hope, great song. Sea Legs, great song. Job Well Done, No Come Down, Get It, A Christmas Miracle. I don't really get into Twin Hype Back, track 9. I love the beat, that like, you know, that beat's great. But Prince Paul's feature is just really kind of odd to me, so I don't really get into it that much. But I love the beat on that track. On 2, let's see what was on 2. Oh, my darling, don't cry. And then my son and I did a reaction to the cat video, which was fun. That was a lot of fun. Close Your Eyes and Count to Fuck. Strange music video. Really strange music video where the cop and the guy are fighting, and they're just fighting and wrestling and fighting, and then they like get into the house. And interesting, really interesting video. All My Life is great. Lie, Cheat, Steal is great. Early, All Due Respect, Love Again, which I don't listen to that too much when my family's around, but that's just a great song. And of course, Crown. I really like Crown. And I do wonder, I've got a conversation coming up on Monday where we discuss this a little bit, but I wonder if Crown slightly inspired Kendrick's Crown, or if Kendrick heard that Crown, Run the Jewels Crown, and if it really struck him, if it spoke to him because of what it was saying. You can't pick up no crown when you're holding what's holding you down. Great song. Great song. So there's all that. And now I want to talk about, when I was doing the reaction, I was having a hard time with some of the lyrics. And I think what you guys were seeing was me in real time just struggling with some concepts. I've said before how ignorance is a thing, but even as you work through ignorance and you learn things and you come to understand things, there's different layers of understanding. There's like a conceptual awareness of understanding of, yes, okay, you can tell me this and I can understand it. And then there's firsthand experience. And there's a huge gap between those two things, firsthand experience and just conceptual understanding. And there's kind of a gradient as well, too, as you get closer and closer to firsthand experience. And it reminds me, what I've been going through reminds me of a scene from a movie called The Big Short, which is about the financial crash in 2008. Great movie, one of my favorite movies. And there's a scene in there where there's these bankers, and they call on this one guy, and they're all pissed off because they've placed, I want to say place these bets, but they've made these investments that are based on the market dropping and failing, because when it does, then they get paid out. And all over the news, all these things, like everything's dropping, but the stats on what they invested on is remaining the same. Like this is the same value, so it hasn't fallen, even though every other index is falling. And they're freaking out. They're all pissed off. And what's going on and this and that. And they call in the guy who they bought from. And he tells them, oh, look at you guys. You're so cynical and jaded, but you still have some faith in the system. And he's basically calling them out saying, look, you guys sit here and talk about how corrupt Wall Street is and the banks are and all this other stuff. Yet you then also expect the system of Wall Street to function fairly. And it doesn't, because it is corrupt. So here you all acting jaded. But really, the reality is you still have some faith in the system because you're expecting the system to react the way it should rather than how it is via a corrupt system. The reason why that applies to me is, everything that's going on, everything that happened in Texas and the shooting, which then was very much in my mind when I was going through these two albums on my reactions and hearing some of these lyrics. A lot of my opinions have been changing over the last couple of years. Kind of slightly before the pandemic, but during the pandemic, I spent some time watching stuff on YouTube and just trying to poke around in different areas where my opinion doesn't often linger, to try and hear new ideas, new information, stuff like that. More so, though, it's just consistently, almost daily, seems like there's more and more reasons to not trust police, for whatever reason. And I don't need to get into all that. We're all pretty aware of all of the examples that happen. But with the school thing, that was much more intense for me because I'm on the internet seeing pictures of kids who are the same age as my kid. So that hits harder, because I can, much like in Good Kid, Mad City, where Kendrick was able to pull me in with that story because of the voicemails his parents were leaving and make me worry for the good kid in the Mad City. The shooting, Jesus, man. And then hearing about the total lack of response from, how much do I rant on this? I don't know. It makes my fucking blood boil. I mean, it really does. But there's a reason. The reason why that matters is because what I had is that was an experience of me shifting from a conceptual understanding to a more, not entirely, not even close to entirely, but slightly closer to a firsthand understanding of communities. And someone left a great comment. I forgot the name. I forget which video, but somebody left a great comment. He actually kind of apologized for it because it was a bit of a rant, but it was a great rant of, there are communities out there who have felt this way for decades about the police, about how they are not there to help them. They only come in to harm them. They never support the community or anything like that. And when you see that, for me, when I see, I shouldn't say when we see, you see, when I see that kind of colossal failure by a police department, a colossal failure to do what they're fucking supposed to do, it puts that idea of communities and communities who are not served by the police, but rather oppressed by the police. You know, Kendrick said it with, we hate the po-po. They want to kill us in the streets for sure. Yeah. And it's still hard for me to wrestle with. Honestly, it's still soaking in this reality. And this has been something that's been soaking in over a couple years now, since before the channel started. And I know I'm kind of all over the place right now. But I'm wrestling with this idea of there's a group of individuals that are government funded that aren't here to help us. They're not here to help us. And, I don't know how many times I've seen on YouTube when you watch different videos, you don't talk to the police. You don't answer their questions. You tell them, no, I don't have to answer that. I want a lawyer. I do not recall. Like, this idea that they're our friends and they're here to help us is not true. And it's constantly being proven true over and over again. And that in itself is unsettling as I shift from conceptual understanding more toward firsthand experience. So I don't really remember what the point of all that was. I think it was just to explain my mental state at the time when I was going through the albums, because I really want to emphasize again, my complaint, how I was feeling, whatever I was upset by, has nothing to do with Run the Jewels. Has nothing to do with Killer Mike or LP or the music that they make or the message that they're sharing. If anything, it makes these stories, these songs, even more impactful because I see a little bit more of the truth that exists within them. And it makes it harder. It makes it harder to hear. It makes it harder to cope with, I guess, in a sense. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It just, this is just me struggling with that. Because it really does bother me. Just like it bothers me, to say it bothers me that kids were killed in a school. I mean, talk about understatement of the year, right? Like, how do you even phrase that? How do you even state feelings about that? But it bothers me that there are so many cities and communities where there are literally hundreds of thousands of people who feel like they cannot trust the police at all. They feel like they can't even look a cop in the eye because something might happen. That's not good. That is absolutely fundamentally wrong. Nothing's changed. Another thing that really bothers me, I still very much hold the opinion that these types of policing, training, rules, enforcement comes from the top, dictated by who, I don't know, but there seems to be specific intention there because it just keeps happening. It hasn't changed. It hasn't improved. And I think I said this on one of the reactions, how it throws me off when people say, when they talk down on people who believe in this idea of, a controlling force that sits atop the food chain in terms of just whether government or power or whatever you want to call it, because I don't know how you can see it any other way. Honestly, I mean, unless it's all just purely coincidental. It's purely a coincidence that every police force in the country is run by an asshole. And I shouldn't say everyone. That's the other thing too, is I don't agree with or subscribe to the idea of all cops are bastards. I don't think that's true. I think there are people out there who are in a police force who do want to do good, but I also believe they're probably in the minority, and they're probably overruled by the people who would rather be corrupt and would rather be, a dick hiding behind a badge and a gun, who would rather harass people than help them and push people down. What was that fucking thing in Kansas City? It was a couple days after the shooting. Never really got any mention because of the shooting. some unarmed pregnant woman got shot 5 times. I mean, what the fuck is that? What is that? It's total bullshit. I don't know what this has to do with Run the Jewels. It really has nothing to do with Run the Jewels. But it's like, it's just me processing. And it's a strange reality. And it is a reality. That's really the thing. It's a reality that we live in. And it's a reality that other people have lived in to a much more extreme extent than I have, for a much longer period of time than I have. And I'm coming to understand that. And I assume that's good. It doesn't feel good, which is fine. You know, I'm not trying to act like, oh, poor me. But I just got to figure out what that means with my brain and, you know, all that shit. Okay, well, I'm tired again. It's cold. I'm getting over the cold, but it's still present. Great albums, great group. You know, another thing too is I guess these guys are somewhat active with the reaction community. So maybe I get Killer Mike or LP on for a conversation. That'd be fun too. I bet if I just reach out, they'll probably be like, yeah. Sometimes it's that easy. You just reach out and do it. Anyway, long video. Hope you guys understand. You guys are pretty cool. It's nice that I can sit here and just kind of dump and typically you understand that I'm not trying to do anything other than just mentally get it out. That's it. All right. We'll see you guys. Oh, tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow, Life of Pablo, Kanye West. Should be a good time. Hopefully I got a little bit more energy. I think so. I should, hopefully. All right. We'll see you.